Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special edition Friday the 13th podcast, because you know we love horror movies, and you know we're going to dissect Friday the 13th movies on Friday the 13th. We are here in audio form and video form. Video form, you can watch me play the new Friday the 13th content, the new update that dropped today. But in audio form, you can listen to us on our podcast, which is on SoundCloud, and that's probably where you listen to it right now, unless you listen to it from one of the other apps on your phone. We're here to break down 7 different categories, choosing our favorite and our least favorite, the best and the worst of these different categories amongst all of the Jason movies, except for the remake, because it's kind of a retelling, and it really doesn't, it stands on its own, but it doesn't add like as an entry. So we're leaving that out of it. But from Friday the 13th, Part 1, all the way to Freddy vs. Jason, we now have our 7 favorite things, which will include setting, kills, actors, special effects, story, killer, and maybe a little bonus round at the end. My name is Spencer.
My name is Glenn.
And thank you for listening to this. Please share it with your friends. Let's get into it. So, Friday the 13th is a long-standing franchise. As far as active franchises, I guess it's not really active anymore, but it's still active amongst the hearts of players, and especially with the Friday the 13th game that released this year, it's really breathed some new life into the franchise itself. But this movie franchise has 10 movies, a crossover movie, and a remake to its name. You could say it's definitely got more hold on the horror community than a Child's Play franchise, Hellraiser, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't think... Am I right? Friday the 13th has more sequels than anybody.
That's right. Friday has the most sequels. It's the longest running horror franchise. I think second to it would be Nightmare, I believe, or Halloween close behind, and that's if you include the remake by Rob Zombie, which Part 2 doesn't exist to me.
Yeah, Part 2 doesn't exist. I actually like the Friday the 13th remake. I want to go ahead and throw some love towards it. It came out in 2009. Of course, it starred Sam Winchester. It was actually, I think one of the reasons I love it so much is because it was written by the same guys that wrote Freddy vs. Jason. And I also loved their portrayal of Jason in that remake.
Oh, yeah, and the actor that played him, holy crap, that dude was the epitome of, he kind of encapsulated all the different people who played Jason, and he gave huge props to Kane Hodder. In fact, I believe he met up with Kane Hodder and got some, inside information and some suggestions on what he should do, how he should move, and things like that. Derek Mears is his name. I thought he was just fantastic as Jason.
Yeah, and the director, Marcus Nispel, he's also the guy that directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which was a very, very well done remake. This guy, I mean, he's kind of Michael Bay's go-to guy, right? I mean, as far as, I want to remake a horror movie. Marcus Nispel, you did great in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let me get you to do Friday the 13th. And Friday the 13th, I actually really, really, really loved. I cannot believe it did not make more money. It's the second highest grossing film in the Friday the 13th franchise, because it's got 92 million worldwide. But if we throw Freddy vs. Jason in there, it'll be third, because Freddy vs. Jason made over $100 million, which for movies that have been around for that long, that's unheard of. But this was coming at a time, this movie came out at a time where there was a lot of people that just were sick of remakes and stuff. I mean, you had Halloween had a remake, Texas Chainsaw Massacre had a remake, Amityville Horror, Nightmare on Elm Street was on the horizon as far as a remake for them. It covers the first 3 movies. It covers the first movie in the opening credits. Then it covers it sets up a story with a group of teenagers, and then as far as Jason's evolution, you cover the second and the third movie, basically getting to the hockey mask throughout the rest of the movie. So I just wanted really quickly to throw some love out there for one of my favorite remakes of all time, and probably overall the most watchable and repeat watching Friday the 13th movie out there is the 2009 remake.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. That in the first 15 minutes of that film, you have parts 1, 2, and 3, and it was nothing but but service to all the fanboys out there who love this franchise. And I was so happy the way that they were able to pull it off, and still, once he finds the hockey mask in the barn, it takes on a whole new different movie.
Yeah.
So it's not a remake. I mean, it's definitely a reboot of the franchise, but you really don't have to reboot it. I mean, this had an ending.
Yeah, and it had an ending, and I really wish it would have had a more definitive. Okay, Jason's dead. You cut off his head, whatever. But I loved the way that Jason moved. He moved like a faster Kane Hodder, but he was the size of Ken Kersinger. Like it was, at least he appeared that way. I loved it. I mean, whatever. I loved it. So,
Yeah.
Let's get on to our 7 categories to rate the Friday the 13th movies. Number 1, we will talk about the settings. Now, the settings, they vary. Now, here, I want to give a little bit of a kind of a shout out to how big Crystal Lake is. You'd have to imagine it like it's, because it's a fictional place, people. You'd have to, actually, I live 20 minutes away from Crystal Lake. So that's creepy because there's a camp there and everything, and it's really weird. I accidentally found it. I only know it's there because I was going to meet a girl one time, and I accidentally was like, I kind of got lost. This is 10 years ago. This is before smartphones, GPSs were easily accessible, like things. I had maps printed off, like directions from MapQuest to get to her house, because I was like, yeah, I know where it's at. What house is it exactly? And then I just looked it up and then like pretend like I knew how to get there, and I was like an hour late, and I took the wrong back roads, and I was just trying to find my way back to the main highway, and I went to Crystal Lake, and I was like, this is how people die. Meeting girls. This is how people die in these movies, and I was so freaked out because it was just like abandoned like general stores and barns and stuff. It was like this must be where they film all of them. But no. So Crystal Lake is a big place in these movies. You have a lot of area around them. You not only have Crystal Lake, which is featured in the first one, but you go to the second movie and the third movie, and you get to stuff like Higgins Haven and Packanack Lodge. And I watched the first 3 movies. I recently rewatched all of the Friday the 13th movies, and I'll rewatch them. And those first 3 movies span the first 3 maps of the Friday the 13th game. And I realized how much love and devotion they put into that game. I just want to give them a shout out. Congratulations, good job, thank you for creating a map out of the little bits we saw in those movies, putting them together. You really created a great setting, but also like you knew that Crystal Lake had a lot of spaces, because then you get to the 4th one and you've got the Jarvis house, and he's got like 2 neighboring houses that people rent out all the time. And then you go to part 5, and part 5 isn't even at Crystal Lake. It's near Crystal Lake at a place where actually it's not even determined if it's near Crystal Lake. It's just at a camp retreat kind of psychiatric facility. And number 6 is the Return to Crystal Lake. And then, of course, number 7 is near like a family residential area, and that's right on the lake, where like people would park their boats and stuff, kind of like what we saw in the remake, where it's like, oh, these are vacation homes, and this is where they get their boats and stuff. And then, of course, you had Part 8, which was in Manhattan, and somehow this landlocked lake leads to a river that goes to New York, and then they wind up not just getting to New York City, but they are like near the Statue of Liberty. Like, nothing about 8 makes sense. And then you get to Part 9, and Part 9 starts out in Crystal Lake, and then ends at a Voorhees house. But the only part of Crystal Lake you get is in the very beginning, because that story goes much into the Voorhees family history and their ties to the Necronomicon and to demons and all kinds of stuff, and Tins in space. And then Freddy vs. Jason is at Crystal Lake Camp, and it's at Elm Street, Springwood. So, yeah, I'm just giving you all the settings, so that it's like, setting, you mean Camp Crystal Lake? No, because my 2 choices don't have a goddamn thing to do with Camp Crystal Lake at all for my best and worst. So I just wanted everyone to know on that rant that the setting of the Jason movies only repeats Crystal Lake maybe 2 or 3 times in 11 movies. So, Glenn, what's your favorite? Nope, bad news first. No, bad news is funnier. What's your favorite setting?
To me, probably the best setting that you get to see is in Jason Goes to Hell. I like the fact that you start off at the camp, and then it's interesting to find out more about Jason's family, the Voorhees lineage, knowing that, here it is now, we've got this whole mythos that they're involved with the Necronomicon and possible demonic activity and things like that. So it was really neat for me to be able to see inside the Voorhees home, which was pretty freaking massive.
Only a Voorhees can kill a Voorhees, motherfucker.
That dude, I remember him from 21 Jump Street, and he's probably one of my top favorite things from that movie. But yeah, for some reason, Jason Goes to Hell, the setting there with the house, and you get more backstory on the Voorhees family, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed all the scenes where people tried to recreate Kane Hodder and they couldn't. But anyway, my favorite setting is Jason X on the space shuttle station type thing, that big ass ship in the air. Because only the dread. Because when you think about it, in the Friday the 13th movies, you know what? If you're kind of good at just sneaking and not being a dipshit, or you're good at driving, then you can get away. You can get away. Just, know how cars work, and you can get away. And I always had a problem with that. I was like, just get. And like that dude and even in Jason Goes to Hell, that dude is like, I gotta save this girl. I was like, nah, man, let the Voorhees do what they do. He only kills like 30 people a year. That's like way manageable. Like, cigarettes kill way more than that in that county alone, because they're all smoking. So it's like, don't worry about it, man. Just leave. She don't even like you like that, like most of the movie. So, like, in Jason X, you're on a spaceship with this motherfucker. Where are you gonna go? Space? You just gonna float around in space? Nah. You're gonna have to fight Jason and die, or nothing else. You have one option: fight Jason and die, or fight Jason and win. And guess what? You probably ain't gonna win. Like that.
Not against Uber Jason.
Terrifying. It's like, give me oh man, give me an Alien, no, and Predator. Fuck that shit. Alien versus Predator versus Jason. Jason just kills them both and looks at them with that tilted head, like, what did I just do? I just killed endangered species. Like, Jason X was horrifying, and the fact that asshat survives that long, 400 years into the future.
Yeah.
Shit. What a shithead. Jason X, man, space shuttle. That's scary, dude.
Yeah, the final frontier.
Yes, that's what. That should have been the tagline.
I think Paramount would have came down on him with that one.
So, the worst setting. Glenn, what's your worst setting? And if we do match up on any of our same answers, we will do a collaboration answer so that we can just, speed the process along.
I think we had the same one on this one.
Okay, what is yours? Your worst setting.
Frickin' Manhattan, man.
Jason Takes Manhattan is the worst fucking movie they've ever made. Oh, shit. I don't get angry at a lot. Like, I don't get angry at politics. But this piece of shit, Rob Hedden wrote and directed this movie. He had complete control. He can't say, I was handed a bad script. Motherfucker, you looked in the mirror and handed yourself the script. Like, you wrote a movie called Jason Takes Manhattan. Like, he's going to go shopping and then stop by, piss on a homeless dude, get a burger at one of the all-night diners, and then go beat up some thugs that are listening to shit rap music. That movie was awful. How does a lake... Oh, does he know what makes a lake a lake?
I don't think so.
I would like to know. All right, so his career was one and done. Like, this is it. Like, I really believe that Hollywood was like, this is it. This is the end. You wrote this, and now we can't allow you to make anything else. Because I realize and you know what, I've listened to interviews, or read interviews of his, where he blames, well, my original idea was to have 1/3 at, what was it, 1/3 at the camp, 1/3 on the boat, and then 1/3 in New York. And I'm like, but you wrote it. What do you mean you meant to do anything? Yeah, it was Jason Part 8. They didn't give a shit. They were like, hey, man, you want to do a Jason movie? Yeah. Do you have a script? Nah, man, can you write one real quick? And that's what he did. He wrote one real quick. There was
on a napkin.
Yeah. Jason gets on a boat. Jason looks at statues. Jason drowns. Like, that ending. Oh, this is not a critique on the movie. It's just the setting. Let me calm down. The setting. So they start off on a boat, and he kills some people because they're like, oh my god, it's only been less than a year since the last killings on this lake. How could we ever get killed here? And then he somehow finds his way onto some private school, which doesn't seem like it's a college.
Yeah.
And they're taking a boat trip to New York.
See, to me, it felt like it was a senior class trip from whatever town neighbors Camp Crystal Lake, and they decide that, hey, for senior year, we're going to Manhattan.
How did he write this? This is this movie seems like the hardest thing ever to write. It's like when your teacher gives you, you have to write a 5,000-word essay on keychains from the state of Illinois. It's like, what am I going to do with this? This is awful. What does this mean? Why is this my subject? Like, I don't understand. You know, a critic actually told him and wrote in a paper. This critic was published in a paper saying, this is, and I quote, the best film in the Friday series, imaginatively directed and written by Hedden. His mom wrote that, I'm pretty sure.
This is what happens, folks, when you take cocaine and LSD.
Okay, so just the setting when you get to New York, it's like all alleyways. Like, they do Times Square. Like, you could tell they got like one night to shoot on Times Square, and the cops didn't even want to block anything off. They're like, dude, you're the 7th weirdest thing on the street right now. Like,
yeah.
They were filming in 1988. Like, it's 1988. New York's a shithole. Wait a few years, wait for Giuliani, we'll be better, then we'll block off some streets. But right now, you're kind of normal. Hold on one second. So basically, the setting of New York was just the ultimate gimmick. It was just, hey, there's city buildings now instead of trees, and you're going to turn down a bunch of alleyways, and it's going to be like you're lost in the woods, but not really.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, it was. The whole thing was contrived. I mean. Okay, so now we know that there's alligators in the sewers in New York, and if you get hit with acid, you revert back to a little kid.
Yep, that was the worst. The sewer way part was actually one of the better creative things that they did, but the setting for Jason Takes Manhattan was awful. So, next, our favorite kills in the Friday the 13th series. Glenn, what movie do you think collectively had the best kills?
My choice, Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, okay.
I like some of the way that
folding the bed in half.
Oh, that was awesome. The kid was kind of zoned out on the front porch, and his dad gets decapitated, and he doesn't even know it, and then just the Freddy getting in the mix. I mean, you're getting the best of both worlds here. It was really the cornfield. Jason's on fire, walking through a damn cornfield, just slashing people left and right. Yeah. I mean, it's not some of the most inventive kills, but for some reason, Freddy versus Jason, in my opinion, had some of the best kills that I've seen uh, Jason do at that point in a long time.
Yeah. I like that a lot. My choice was actually a cop out, and is Jason X because the cryogenic freezing kill, he killed like a whole army platoon like of space marines. He was put in that digital Camp Crystal Lake where he wrapped the girls up in the sleeping bag and threw them against the tree. I mean, he fought a mech. Like he had a lot of good kills in Jason X. I think collectively I liked the styles of kills. Now it's a little bit of a cop out because the Crystal Lake thing was an homage to a prior movie, and it was so much further in the future. But if you chose Freddy vs. Jason, which was 2003, me choosing Jason X, which was like 2000, 2001, then cool. I cop out, you cop out, everyone cops out. That's fine. That is fine. Best kills, Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason. Worst kills.
You know, I went with part one.
Oh my god. We did not.
I mean, you know, granted there was I don't know, something about part one. I mean, yeah, it was
more
the
basic.
first. It was the first in the series. I mean, it's one of Tom Savini's first outings. My favorite kill is Kevin Bacon's death scene.
Yeah, he got the best one.
You know, it's just there were a lot of jump scares, but as far as over the top kills, we really didn't see anything until we hit part 2, going into 4.
Yeah, the first one where not seeing the killer, it's kind of a whodunit or who's doing it, the mystery thing, that really actually kind of hurt the way the kills were portrayed.
Yeah.
Mine was part 3 because it was made for 3D and those kills are cheesy and awful and the eye popping out. Oh god! Every kill in part 3 is just so cheesy. It's so awful. I couldn't stand it. Oh my god! And so all right, we went early with the worst kills, late for the best kills. I guess it tells you something. Our third topic is best actor. So best actor, but meaning a specific actor from one of the movies, because there are all kinds of like real actors that took part in these movies, from Kevin Bacon to Corey Feldman, Crispin Glover. Who was your favorite, Glenn?
You know, I went with Corey Feldman. His portrayal of Tommy Jarvis.
He was in 4 and the beginning of 5.
Yeah, his portrayal as Tommy Jarvis was really, really good. And for this to be one of his first movies that he filmed, I mean, it was huge. I mean, how many you can sit and look at this franchise and just look at the many different actors and actresses that got their start through this franchise. Kevin Bacon, Corey Feldman, Kelly Hu was in Takes Manhattan.
Yeah.
So many great actors and actresses today got their start with this franchise, and I really thought Corey Feldman brought a lot to it as Tommy Jarvis. And you know, when it gets to the part where he shaves his head and he's about to kill Jason, holy crap! He looked like a pissed off, possessed Uncle Fester.
Yeah.
And it was so good. I mean, and some of the interactions between Jason and Tommy Jarvis in that movie, that was real. I mean, he was scared. When Jason jumps through the window and grabs him, Corey Feldman said he damn near crapped his pants.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what you see on his face is real terror.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Crispin Glover as Jimmy. I loved Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis, Kelly Hu. But my favorite is Miguel Nunez, who I loved the most as Spider from Return of the Living Dead. He also played DJ in the Street Fighter movie, but he played in Part 5, and he was awesome. Just seeing him in there, I was like, all right, so he basically was in 2 of my favorite franchises from the 80s as far as horror movies. Return of the Living Dead, which is not Night of the Living Dead, it's actually its own series, and it kind of exists in like a world where Night of the Living Dead exists as a movie, but it's based off a real... Anyway, not about Return of the Living Dead, it's about Jason. Miguel Nunez, he did die. He was not live. He basically was the friend of a little kid who Jason tried to kill, and Jason wound up killing this dude and his girlfriend. And, he was after Tommy Jarvis the whole time. It was part 5. It was when Tommy Jarvis was imagining Jason, but then there was also a Jason copycat killer there. It wasn't actually Jason. There was just a guy who took the stories of Jason to go after all the people. He was a paramedic whose son had died there at the crazy facility. Who was your least favorite actor that was in this?
My least favorite actor in this series, and there's a whole bunch to pick from.
Of bad ones.
I went with Jensen Daggett. She was the female lead in Jason Takes Manhattan.
She's awful.
Her performance just wasn't. I mean, she didn't really act all that scared. She, a lot of times in the movie throughout Jason Takes Manhattan, she played the typical, protect me, damsel in distress crap. I just, Kelly Hu couldn't save that movie. So, I don't know. Jensen Daggett just, as a female lead, I think they could have cast somebody a little bit stronger. Or if they wanted to go with a no-name actress, which is what they did, they could have picked somebody else who had a bit more acting chops behind them.
Yeah, I agree. However, my least favorite actor is John Shepherd. He played Tommy Jarvis in Part 5. Grown up, he was not the same Tommy Jarvis as Part 6. That was Tom Matthews. Tom Matthews is awesome. John Shepherd was awful. He was just awful. And to be given so much screen time for a guy that was supposed to be playing a crazy person, and a guy that was scared, and the guy that was being chased by Jason, but he's also being he's like imagining Jason, but he was the only one that knew what Jason was and how to stop him. And he had lost his whole life. His sister and his mom was murdered. His sister he never saw again. So it's a little frustrating that he didn't bring more to the table. He didn't try, really.
Yeah, and it's sad that they filmed it as fast as they did, because it would have been a whole lot better. Might have been a whole better movie if Corey Feldman would have been the right age to play Tommy Jarvis again.
And that takes us to our favorite special effects. Now, special effects is the look of the setting. It's the actual kills themselves. It's how Jason looks. It's everything. It's how they do everything that is special effects. And most of the time, it's been Tom Savini that's behind all of them. And if I had to choose like the way any of Savini's creations look, my favorite Savini creation is actually from the video game. And that's Savini's Jason, where he has gone to hell and he's all charred up and lava's bleeding out of where his sores are, and he's got a pitchfork and stuff, and that's really cool. Tom Savini has some great creativity. He was limited with the budgets, with the times of special effects and stuff, but he was still able to pull off some really great looks. Glenn, your favorite special effects for a Jason movie, which is a really odd category, but it's one we're going to cover.
Well, looking at all the movies and going back and I rewatched them as well. 98% of these movies from start to finish was all practical effect, which is amazing for me. Yeah. I always want to see more practical effect as opposed to CGI. Now, don't get me wrong, CGI looks cool, but the practical effect gives it a more realistic feel to it. And as a fan, I have to say, special effect wise, with the practical kills and with the CGI used in the movie, I have to go with Jason X.
Okay. I mean, yeah, he has a little bit of an advantage because of the CGI era there, and that makes sense. I've always liked how grotesque Jason has gotten over time, but I loved how Jason didn't have that fucking brain behind the mask, the ball sack behind the mask in Jason X. I liked the way he looked. I liked the setting allowed a lot of really cool special effects as well, though.
Yeah.
I mean, being in the space station and you have all these cool things, and he's like, I mean, it looked like it really, part of that movie when they're hunting down Jason looks like Metroid versus Jason. It looks like Samus Aran and a group of space marines versus Jason. It looked really cool.
Yep, and if the story flowed, and the way they did it was, you've got the practical effect of the dude doing a corkscrew down that drill bit. I mean, That wasn't CGI. That was a lot of painstaking stunt work to pull that death scene off, and I thought that was one of the better ones, other than the cryo face.
The cryo face. Everyone remembers the cryo face.
That was probably, I felt bad for her because she wasn't one of the stuck-up, uppity, your typical blonde from a horror movie. She was actually what you would call, quote unquote, the good girl, and she had probably one of the most epic death scenes in that movie. And the way that they did it with the practical effect and everything was, holy crap. Nice editing job, nice cutaways. I mean, they really pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, and really, she seemed like the smartest one, so I guess kind of good luck on Jason to kill off the smartest one first. But, I mean, the fact that they did, on such a small budget, they did kind of a Star Trek look. I guess around that time, it looked better than like a Galaxy Quest, and it looked kind of on par with a Star Wars Episode 1, especially if you compare the budgets. I remember seeing Jason X in theaters, and I remember seeing Resident Evil 1 in theaters at the same time, and Jason X did look a lot better. And
yeah.
I mean, they did good. They did good for what they had. My choice for favorite special effects is Part 6, Jason Lives. If you remember when Tommy Jarvis goes and digs up Jason, he starts stabbing him with that rod, that piece of the fence, that tall metal rod, and then eventually he is struck by lightning, and him and his crazy friend get away from the body, and then it's struck again, I believe, and then Jason comes to life. But you see, like, it's almost like you saw it a little bit in Freddy vs. Jason as well. You see his body coming back together. You see his eyes open and the maggots are everywhere, and you see his lungs breathing, and you see that his part of his body is rotted, and you see more rotting with him in Part 7 as well. But I mean, this isn't about just Jason. This is about all the special effects, and they have a epic scene at the end of that movie where they're on the lake and Tommy Jarvis is there, and he is on the lake with a rock tied to a chain, ready to wrap it around Jason's neck and leave him at the bottom of the lake. And that whole scene is really, really cool, and it's like an epic underwater fight. Like, everything they do with the special effects in that one was really ramped up. I feel like Part 6, Jason Lives, is like the peak of a lot of things they did, from the design of Jason, which I think they got a little bit better in Part 7, but from the kills, he folded that one girl's poor dad in half. The guy that just kept saying, "Stay away from Tommy Jarvis, he'll get you killed." He was right. Tommy Jarvis was bad news, and he was just trying to protect his daughter. He heard his daughter screaming, and he knew that Jason heard it too, so he distracted Jason and got himself folded in half. Like, there was a lot of cool things in Part 6. I really, really dig it. A lot of cool special effects. So that's my favorite. Now, let's get to our least favorite, which there are many examples for poor special effects in Friday the 13th movies. Glenn, what is your most epic collection of special effects fails in the Friday the 13th movie series?
Before I get into it, I've always got little nuggets of I bet you didn't know this kind of trivia, but
yeah.
in Friday 6, in the very opening scene where you see Tommy Jarvis and his buddy are in the cemetery right before they, ram that rod into his chest.
Car ram rod. I had to say it because you said
meow. The actor who played his friend is Ron Paleo. He is better known as Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter, for anybody who is familiar with that show.
Oh my god.
Okay. Everybody over 40 gets it. But my worst, this was a toss-up between two different movies, and I had to go with...
Oh, please say what I say. Please say it.
I went with 3D.
Oh, wow, okay. I did not say 3D, but good job.
It was a toss-up between that one or Manhattan.
I chose Manhattan. You go ahead and just dissect how bad the special effects in Part 3 was, because they were geared towards 3D. What the fuck?
Yeah. I saw this in theaters, which I had no business being at a movie like this at the age that I was when this movie came out. But I went and saw it. Of course, they gave you 3D glasses. This movie is not in 3D. There is not a single frame of this movie that was filmed in actual 3D. The there's two scenes that stand out to me as being what they would consider 3D. The first one is the snake that comes flying at your face.
Yeah.
The second one is when Jason squeezes this dude's head and his eyeball comes flying out. You can clearly see that eyeball is on a stick-like thing and a spring, and it shoots it out. Come on, people.
There's a snake gag. They've pulled that shit in Resident Evil 4. Like, you go to open a box, and a snake jumps out of it and scares you. And it's like a box you had no business opening up, but you can, and you do. And they have a snake jump out of it. And whenever I see that movie, I think of Resident Evil 4, because I saw Resident Evil 4 before, or I played Resident Evil 4 before I saw Friday the 13th Part 3. But yeah, you know what? That should have been my choice. I have a lot of anger towards one of the movies, and I'm really taking it out on them with my worsts. Yeah, anything geared towards 3D is probably going to have the worst special effects, especially back in 1983 or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah, I think everybody remembers the debacle that was Jaws 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My worst special effects for a Friday the 13th movie is Jason Takes Manhattan. I'm not sure what's worse. Is it the Jason's mask popping off like a tight bra on his face of a breast? Or is it when he just starts puking? Like, just randomly starts puking water because he's drowning. And then all of a sudden he turns into this little boy. Like, he's a normal little boy again. And they leave. Like, okay, that's cool. We're just going to leave this little kid down here in the sewer.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't make sense. Punching the guy's head off. I get it. It's a cool, iconic kill. And I know there's people that are gonna love it. And to me, the thought of Jason punching a man's head off is like, this is why slasher movies are so hated.
Yeah.
This shit right here. This is why I gotta listen to Eli Roth bitch for 2 hours about how slasher movies ruined horror. Because of this shit right here.
Well, you know, I've got the box set of the movies, and there's a special bonus disc, and it goes into interviewing the cast members from 1 all the way through Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X weren't a part. It was a separate company when the box set came out.
Yep.
But on this bonus disc, Kane Hodder gives, when it finally hits Friday 6, Kane Hodder gives different little interviews and tidbits and info about the different movies. And he said the only thing that he liked about Take Manhattan was the scene where he's walking down the street and the 3 guys are standing there with the ghetto blaster, and they're breakdancing, and he pulls the mask up to reveal his face, and they run off.
Yeah, that too. God damn it.
And then he stares up at a billboard like he's, Mama?
Man, okay. Jason Takes Manhattan's just... It's part of me even regrets Jason or Friday the 13th existing because of Jason Takes Manhattan. It's that bad. It frustrates me that much. And you know what? Jason on a boat should be frightening, but how I believe how he got into fucking space in the year 2543 more than I believe how that boat got from fucking Camp Crystal Lake to fucking New York Bay by the Statue of Liberty. The whole fucking movie pisses me off. I don't like it. I don't want it. I wish it didn't exist. I'm gonna move on. God damn it. I'm gonna move on to story. Which Jason movie? And I'm gonna change my answer because I feel like I've ranted about one topic too much. So I'm gonna change my answer on the worst part. But we're gonna start with our favorite story. Our favorite story in the Friday the 13th series. Glenn, what did you pick? I feel like
this was a hard one for me too.
There's a couple that are really good.
Yeah, Jason Goes to Hell was a really good story. Now, granted, you only see Jason in that movie for less than 10 minutes.
Are you choosing Jason Goes to Hell?
No.
Okay. Continue.
My movie, what I thought was the best storyline, very well executed, was Part 7, New Blood.
Ooh, because they brought in a telepath.
Yes.
Like, they made it like, okay, Jason's supernatural, but now we have, like, crazy shit. This girl's crazy.
Exactly. And it seemed like that she wasn't necessarily a victim, but she connected on some level with Jason. In this movie, it's always lightning brings him back, or all of a sudden his eye pops open, or he hears some bed mattresses squeaking and Jason's alive again. This girl brought him back to life.
Yeah, I feel like it's cool that it dealt with. She was telepathic, and they were going to lock her away because they thought that she was a threat, but they could prove that she was crazy. And her mom was just trying to find her help all of these years, ever since she accidentally murdered her father by just being angry. It was, the story with her was great. And then there was a bunch of kids that came in, and they were going to just party away, and they kind of got involved with her, and that was a mistake. And yeah, I really like this movie. I liked what they did with her, a telepath. How cool is it that they brought in a telepath to go up against Jason, and the only disadvantage she had was the fact that she didn't really know how to control it.
Yeah, and it was very well executed. Now, just to give you another little slice of useless trivia, the actress who played her mom in the movie, her name is Susan Blue, and very rarely does she get in front of the camera. She's a voice actress, and she is better known as the voice to Jim in Jim and the Holograms. And she was also the voice to RC in Transformers.
Wow.
But this movie was just, for me, it was hands over fist, probably one of the less convoluted things that they came up with, and probably one of the better executed films from the 1980s, Jason, that I had seen up to that point.
And his look in that movie, oh man. So the thing with Part 7 was, if I had known that I was doing what they did with that movie, with Part 7, I actually don't have her kill off her father.
Yeah.
I have Jason at one point. Like, maybe you write the story where Jason, her father, had gone to help some kids at the camp at one of the earlier murders that Jason had gone on, one of the earlier sprees, and you kind of recreate like Part 2 or Part 3 or whatever, and he goes to help Packanack. Or maybe he's that cop that chased Jason and got murdered by Jason. In Part 2 or something, or he's alive and she just has a lot of problems, and that that doctor had this insidious plan of using her against Jason because he knew of Jason's real existence, and her father's still there. If I knew that Part 7 was going to work the way it did, at the end I don't bring her father back to life. I make sure I write it in Part 6 that Tommy goes down with Jason.
Yeah.
And he dies. And because I saw Part 4, 5, 6, and 7 when I was way young. And I didn't watch them fully because I wasn't allowed to. So I was just watching the bits and pieces that I could watch, like with my uncle or something. And because he actually, one of the first movies I saw in theaters was Jason Goes to Hell, and that's when I watched some of the others. But I always thought when I was younger that was Tommy Jarvis coming back from the dead. Because I didn't fully remember what happened to Tommy. I thought he drowned. And growing up, I was like, that was so epic. Like, Tommy died. Tommy had a fucking trilogy. And then he died. And then he came back one last time and beat Jason's fucking ass. And that is not what happened. And I still to this day, part of me wishes, damn it, I wish they just would have killed Tommy off. And then she would have brought him back to life, but that would have been a whole different kind of rewrite, and it wouldn't have been the tragedy of her dealing with the fact that she killed her own father. But it would have been, you could have still leaned it that way because it's still an evil doctor the whole time that's trying to take advantage of her telepathic abilities, and he chooses this way. Anyway, the story was great. I loved how it worked. I liked everything about it. My only hang-up is what I thought should have happened, which is I think most people's hang-ups with any movie story.
Well, see, I found it funny that they cast Terry Kaiser to play the Doctor in this movie. A couple of years after he did this movie, he was in a cult favorite, Weekend at Bernie's. That's right, folks. This is Bernie. Bernie versus Jason.
He was Bernie?
Yep, that's Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's.
That's awesome. Renaming Part 7 now. Bernie versus Jason. Holy shit. That's awesome. Damn. Alright, well, my favorite story is one that you almost went with, Jason Goes to Hell. Now, if you're here to watch a Jason movie, Jason Goes to Hell is not the movie for you. Jason Goes to Hell features... It's probably there's only 2 movies that feature less Jason than this, and that's because Jason's not fucking in them. That's Part 5 and Part 1. Jason Goes to Hell, it starts out with Jason. Kane Hodder's Jason. Weird brain with the fucking wig and stuff. I didn't like the look or the aesthetic of this movie at all, the way it was shot, the way people acted. I loved the story, though. So Jason is caught by this girl who's like, oh, there's a girl by herself showering at Crystal Lake. Why? But then it goes into, she was baiting him. She was baiting him the whole time. And the military surrounds Jason and blows him the fuck up. And they take him, and the coroners are working with him, and then all of a sudden one of the coroners has the idea of, let me bite this dude's fucking heart, because that's normal. And then he kills another coroner. He goes on a spree. They start puking little heart alien throw-up demons into each other, and Jason starts spreading himself and taking control over more and more people because he's after a relative of his, and she has a baby, and she also has an ex-boyfriend who totally can't get over her and can't leave well enough alone, even though that would have made him a much more sane person if he just would have left this Voorhees shit by themselves. And there's a badass Blade-looking motherfucker who is hunting Jason, not like the dude from Part 4 who wound up just dying like a bitch, but this guy actually is ready. Like, he's on national television talking about Jason's still alive, and I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna kill him, and I'm gonna show him to you. And he knows that Jason can only die by a blade that transforms into like the Green Ranger's fucking flute blade, or White Ranger's fucking flute blade. When a Voorhees touches it, it becomes like this weird skeleton bone blade. And that's all well and good. And of course, you know it leads to her stabbing Jason in the heart because, I mean, Jason went to hell. That's kind of the whole point of the movie. But the cool thing was leading up to it. You saw the Book of the Dead in that old Voorhees house where the climax took place.
Yes, the Necronomicon.
Necronomicon from Evil Dead. And it's like, alright, well, we already knew this was getting weird, spiritual, supernatural stuff when he's a zombie killer. We've had a girl that's has telepathic abilities, and now Jason's able to transport his soul into the bodies of random people. But now it's like, oh, this is all tied to the fucking Necronomicon, because that book can't stop making trouble.
Yep.
And then when he's sent to hell, he's pulled down, and his mask is left on Earth. And this is 1993. Alright, so both franchises have been pretty much done. But you see Freddy's hand come up out of the ground, grab Jason's mask, and pull it down. And then you hear Freddy's laugh. And it's like, that's fucking incredible.
Yep.
We did not know at the time we would have to wait 10 years to see Freddy vs. Jason. So that kind of sucked a bag of dicks. But but that story, what they did with Jason, the way they went balls deep into the supernatural with him, like, that was great. I loved it. And
it made sense. You know, they tried that with Michael Myers. And
goddamn Michael Myers.
Yeah, it just didn't work. But with Jason, it works.
Well, Michael Myers is not a zombie.
Exactly.
He's a weird brother with sister issues that just keeps evading death.
Oh yeah.
He keeps re-hunting her, and then they reboot it, and then he hunts her again. Then they retcon it, and he goes back to hunting OG sister. God.
Well, you know, the critics really didn't like this movie, and a lot of Friday fans don't like this movie because Jason's not featured in it. Like, I think, honestly, his runtime in the whole movie is 15 minutes tops.
Yeah,
and
it's short.
With this movie, you didn't really need Jason.
No, and that's probably what made it a better story, is the fact that they left Jason out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing is, Kane Hodder, he is the only actor to play 3 major slasher killers in movies. He was a stunt person in one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, so he donned the Leatherface mask.
Like OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
One of those. Two.
Shit. With Dennis Hopper,
it might have
he's
been
fucking crazy. It's awesome.
That movie was awesome. It might have been 2 or 3.
Damn,
but
I'll look it up real quick.
In Jason Goes to Hell, that's Kane Hodder's hand in Freddy's glove.
Well, let's not forget that he has that newer series, Hatchet.
Oh, hey, I love that series.
Oh, yeah. It has fucking Daniel Harris.
Oh, Daniel Harris, Robert Englund. Oh my God! Several horror directors make cameo roles in the 3 Hatchet movies. Very well done. Yeah, there's a whole Jason Voorhees feel to it, but I honestly, between A New Blood and Jason Goes to Hell, I thought they were hitting on every cylinder when they did these movies, and it was back to back.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Oh, Hills Have Eyes. I see Kane Hodder for Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, Hills has that, yeah.
I don't. Oh, and Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Yeah, Leatherface. Yeah.
That one was a little wicked.
Yeah.
That one had Ken Foree in it. I liked that one. This is not Texas Chainsaw Massacre podcast, but I enjoy all of those. They're all good, even the remake and that late sequel. And 2 is great, 3 is really good. The new family one with Matthew McConaughey, I think that one's good. Anyway, not to deviate this podcast, but we're talking about really, really good stuff because we're trying to avoid the fact that we have to talk about the worst stories in the Jason movies. All right, Glenn, what's your least favorite? What's the worst plot story of the Friday the 13th series?
It's sad that I went with this because it's one of my favorites in the series, but the story was convoluted at best, and there was a lot of things that I think they could have changed, but Jason X.
I chose Jason X too. I changed my answer from Jason Takes Manhattan because I'm tired of bitching about it, and I decided to have something different.
I can watch that over again and again. It's the comedy timing in it. Kane Hodder, when he goes from Jason to Uber Jason, and the homage at the end of it where, the mask is flying through space and it crash lands on New Earth and it lands at a campsite in the middle of the lake. It had good qualities to it, but really, folks, just because one horror movie character went to space does not mean you have to put every horror movie character into space.
Now, who are you talking about? You talking about fucking Leprechaun?
Bingo!
God damn it. That little short shit started sending all the horror icons to space. It's like they already have enough shit in space. Alright? They have predators. They have aliens. Alright? That's enough. They're in fucking space. It's bad enough.
Oh, God. Leprechaun. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the convolutedness of the story. I get it. Camp Crystal Lake is no longer Camp Crystal Lake. It's a military compound. And as much as I love the movie, I have to say it's got the weakest story in all of them.
Yeah. So, it's Jason X, man. I don't want to shit on it. I really don't. But, there's something wrong when Sean Cunningham won't put his fucking name on it. He put his son or his cousin or someone random's name on it. So, alright, so just to give you a rundown of why this is so shitty. Alright, the writer of this one wrote My Bloody Valentine 3D and Drive Angry.
Oh wow.
So he's got a list of apologies to fucking dole out. All right, and the guy that directed it didn't direct anything ever again, as the case is with many Jason directors. I don't. That it's the cast isn't awful. All right, so it's not the cast's fault. It's just he's in fucking space and he's fighting the Space Marines, and it's cool in a nutshell, but it's also, if you're looking at it as like we are right now, it's a story aspect. Really? Like, the government decided to capture his ass again, cryogenically to freeze him, and well, actually they woke him up. Didn't he accidentally freeze his ass himself?
Yeah, when he was, they got him into the room, and she locked him in there and hit the button to freeze him, and then he rammed that machete through it and got her. Really?
The story is just awful. Like, I don't want to completely tear it apart, but god damn it. And like, it's like the equivalent of Jason Takes Manhattan. Why are these fucking students and this doctor on this ship, like, just in the middle of nowhere, and going to Earth and like digging up old shit? Like, I don't understand. Because it's like 500 years in the future, so of course Earth is destroyed. Which, I mean, 50 years in the future, Earth is destroyed. So let's not pretend. All right. All right. Jason X. Damn it, guys. Damn it. So many things were right with that movie. Kills, the way Jason looked. It was campy, but the camp killed it. Now we're going to go into our next topic, which would be topic number 6. Getting close to the end. Favorite killer. This is not favorite version of Jason only. This is actually encompassing the actor. This is encompassing the fact that Part 5 did have a copycat killer that wasn't actually Jason. It's also encompassing the fact that there are multiple people to play Jason. The first movie has the mom. The 9th movie has many different people. And then, I mean, you could count Freddy vs. Jason and be like, oh, it has Freddy and Jason. But I don't really want to count that because it's kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to count the Jason from that movie. And I realize that there's issues with who my choice is going to want to be. So I'm going to let you pick first, Glenn. Who is your favorite killer?
You know what who my favorite one is, Kane Hodder.
Well, from which movie?
I'm going to have to go with 7.
Okay.
Just the way that he interacted with the telepath, and the whole thing with him being underwater. What people don't realize is Kane Hodder was chained and on the bottom of that lake or the swimming pool, wherever they filmed it, and a dive team had to go in and give him oxygen every 30 seconds or so. And I mean, dude.
Well, he looked awesome. I mean, I think
he
the
did.
look of the Part 7 Jason is my favorite look. It's
when
because it's a combination of the fresh rotted corpse zombie of 6, and the water's worn away from him a little bit, and he's wearing a chain around his neck the whole time. Like, hey, I was locked underwater, you bitch.
Yes, and the way he looked in that movie, you could see the spinal column, the ribs through the back of the shirt. When his mask, when she telepathically rips his mask right down the middle, it's like, okay, holy crap, finally Jason looks like he's been rotting somewhere for a while.
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know, that has got to be my favorite Jason, and it just ties into why I thought it had the best storyline. The female telepath and Jason, they played off each other, and it was like different sides of the same coin.
Yep, I could see that. I mean, the way they relate to each other and the way she kind of feels how he feels and that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. I was leaning on 7. There was 2. There was one that was really... I still feel like it's kind of a cheap cop out, but I'm going to choose it. I really like it, and I'm always the one to say, well, Ken Kurzinger's is bigger. Bleh. King Kirzinger is bigger, and it's true. King Kirzinger is bigger than Kane Hodder. King Kirzinger is my favorite Jason. That is Freddy vs. Jason. I felt like in Freddy vs. Jason, we got to see that side of him where he murdered a lot of people, but and he had his highest death toll in that movie. But also we got to see him played as a sympathetic character, because you can't have a monster movie where there are verses without. You can't have two baby faces or two heels. So basically, you had to make one of them slightly a good guy, and that was Jason. Like, he was asleep and he was resting. He was in his final resting place. At least you feel like his body was. And Freddy utilized his soul from hell, put him back in his body, and tricked him into killing all these people. He had to walk all the way to fucking Illinois. Like, it's a long walk from New York. Right? You feel bad from right off the bat if you know geography. And he's not taking a bus. And he looked awesome. He was tall. They kind of fixed what I felt was wrong with Part 9, with the hair coming off the brain. That I liked the way he looked. Some people didn't. I liked the way he looked. Some people said he looked kind of lazy. I was like, I think he looks awesome in Freddy vs. Jason. And I loved the slow, deliberate attacks compared to Kane Hodder's aggressiveness.
Yes.
And we had Kane Hodder for like 4 or 5 movies, so it was definitely a different Jason to see. And for a Jason that has been freshly woken up, had to walk all the way to Illinois, it would make sense if he lost a little bit of that aggressiveness. And he's just kind of like, I'm going to swing and kill 3 people at one time.
Right.
And he had the benefit of working off of Freddy. I mean, Freddy with his one-liners, Freddy with the fact that he is iconic, he's a killer as well. Like, he had those benefits. I'm trying to leave that out of it. I know a lot of people still get pissed over the fact that Kane Hodder was replaced by Ken Kirzinger. Ken Kirzinger's bigger. He was the stuntman for Jason Takes Manhattan. I'll forgive that. And I mean, it was the studio or it was Ronnie Yu. Ronnie Yu was the director of Freddy vs. Jason. He also directed Bride of Chucky, which I also see as a really divisive point in the Chucky franchise, the Child's Play franchise. Yeah. And so he carries a lot of controversial baggage with him, and this is no exception. He actually, to this day, he says, and I quote, actually I'm not going to quote him completely because it's not a real. I don't trust the quote. But he said ultimately it's New Line's decision to exclude Hodder, not his. And then many New Line executives say that he is the one that came up with the idea to replace Kane Hodder. And like 2 years after Jason X, I know it just kind of stung, but that's what I had to. That's what I had to choose. The Jason from Freddy vs. Jason, Jason 7 or Friday 13th Part 7. That Jason is very close though.
Well, you know, that movie was good. I have to agree with you. That was, you know, when you sit through 8, 9 movies of Jason Voorhees just being this badass killer, and then you get to this movie Freddy vs. Jason, and you know the third act of the film is we finally get to see this fight. But as they're fighting, there's some things that Freddy is doing to Jason. It's like, really, dude? You know, come on, Jason, whoop his ass.
The slicing. Yeah, they really booked Jason as more of a giant in that movie. And if I had to choose my favorite Jason period, it's one that we're not counting. That's from the remake. That's my favorite Jason period. He's tall, he's fast, he's strong, and he's deliberate like he is, and he's menacing. Now, the Jason from Freddy vs. Jason remind me more of Michael Myers than Jason. Like, he stalked people more.
And that was cool. It went back to what, you know, Jason did in the earlier Friday movies. Not so much. I mean, Jason didn't pick up his speed until Kane Hodder comes in. And then, you know, when the remake, like you said, this dude had Kane Hodder mixed with Freddy vs. Jason and a couple of other Jasons thrown in there, and it was a one-stop shop. But Ken Chrysler did a phenomenal job of the slow, methodical, go ahead and run because I'm still going to catch your stupid ass.
Yeah. Now, our least favorite killers, Glenn. Do you have a least favorite killer? It's probably the same one as me.
Yeah, I went with Tom Morga from A New Beginning.
Yep, from Part 5. That's my least favorite.
The ambulance driver, yeah.
Yep. I felt like the story made sense, but it was like, once you found out it wasn't Jason, it was like, it made sense in the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. It really did. But that Jason was... So, he slowed down in that movie. Okay, so here's where it was. Alright, part 2, Jason's kind of stumbly. He's kind of an idiot. Part 3, he's a little bit faster. Part 4, part 3, he's a lot faster. Part 4, he slows down a little. Part 5, he gets noticeably slow. Part 6, Kane Hodder brings him in, and he isn't fast running, but he's aggressive with his movements. And I felt like Part 5, I didn't like how slow he was, especially knowing towards the end, it's like, this is a normal guy this whole time?
Yeah.
Why is he so slow? Does he have fucking gout? I don't understand. So, Part 5, fuck you. Like, fuck that version of Jason. The best part of Jason in that movie to me was when Tommy Jarvis was imagining Jason.
Yeah, because that made you think that was really Jason.
Yeah.
And then when the big reveal comes, spoiler alert, folks, that it's not Jason as the killer, it's like, I just sat through an hour and 45 minutes to find out that it's the special guy's dad who's the ambulance driver. Yeah, and if you're such a good dad, why'd you drop him off at the loony bin, buddy?
Yeah, why are you working as an ambulance driver and your son's in that loony bin, and then you're going to get so pissed that your son got killed in the loony bin that you're going to dress up as Jason Voorhees and start killing those kids. And not only those kids, there were people outside of that mental hospital that were killed by him, and that didn't make any fucking sense.
Exactly.
You know what? Worst story, not Jason X. Now I'm making it Part 5. I can't, because it's part of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. And that's really the only merit that the Jason movies have. So no, I retract that. But both of our least favorite killer is from Part 5. Fake-ass Jason.
Yep.
That brings us to our final subject of our 7 subjects. Our favorite and our least favorite movie. I'm torn. Glenn, I'm going to go ahead and let you throw your answer out there. What you think is your favorite movie is?
It's really hard because Freddy vs. Jason was phenomenal,
so
and
good.
A New Blood, man. I mean, that storyline itself was just. It was a great movie. Definitely in my top 5 Friday movies. And, without taking anything away from Freddy vs. Jason, I'm going to have to say my favorite Friday movie is New Blood.
Okay. All right. So, Part 7, New Blood? Really? All right. Well, you already gave it Best Story. And we talked about how great the Jason from that was. So I guess that's really all it comes down to. If you love the story and you love the Jason in it, then that's really the best thing to hang your hat on.
Yep.
Mine is a tie because I feel like Freddy vs. Jason isn't out because you have to have all the Jason movies to really lead up to them to really make Freddy vs. Jason matter. It's a versus movie. So one of my top 3 favorite movies, and it has never wavered since it came out in 2003, was Freddy vs. Jason. I'm going to leave that out of this. I'm going to go ahead and just choose Friday the 13th movies themselves. I'm going to choose Part 6. Part 6, like I just said, the Tommy Jarvis trilogy really gives any kind of merit, credit, whatever, to the Friday the 13th series. You can say, yeah, this movie sucks, this movie sucks, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. But when you watch 4 through 6, those movies are actually movies with Jason in them, except for 5. Like those are good damn movies. You've got Part 4 where it's little Corey Feldman, and he's living there with his family in the Jarvis house, and he's got a sister and his mom, and they have their own dad stuff, and so he's got his own issues as a child before Jason starts chopping up his mom and scares his sister away forever, and then he has to deal with like this whole group of people that are just dying across the street, and then this guy comes down to the fucking lake and starts getting in their head about, I'm hunting Jason. And so he starts getting screwed up. Jason then screws him up for good. He goes to an insane asylum that's also at some weird camp not on the lake in 5, and he deals with that, deals with, do I see Jason? Is he here? Is he not? And then when he comes to grips that Jason's back and he's here to kill me, he kills Jason, finds out it's not actually Jason. Part 6 picks up right where that is. Part 6 picks up where he has broken free. He's broken out, and he's going to Jason's grave. He's going to make sure he destroys that corpse. He's going to burn it and make sure Jason can never come back to life. Make sure that he knows that Jason will never be back because he's been haunted by it for over 20 years. And he goes back. He accidentally is the reason that Jason comes back to life in the first place. And then he spends the rest of the movie trying to fix his mistake. And they aren't called... he finds out after he starts sexually harassing the sheriff's daughter, which is just epic. It's like, dude, what are you doing? So he finds out that they have changed the name from Crystal Lake to Camp Forest Green. And they have done everything they can to make people forget about Jason. And Jason is dead to them. And that cop knows it. And he knows Tommy Jarvis. He knows that situation. He knows what happened to Tommy Jarvis' parents. The cop knows that Jason was alive. The cop knows that Jason was a murderer and that he killed all those people. He had no doubts that existed, that it happened. But he was trying to keep the town away from getting all scared and stuff. And then the more he tried to stop Tommy, the more Tommy fucking did. And if you don't remember... I believe it's part 6 is the first time you put children in danger.
Yeah.
And it's the first time since part 2 that you even have people that are actually camp counselors.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Crystal Lake Camp and camp counselors and all this shit, that was like in 3 movies. And this is the first time in a long time, and it was the last time they dealt with that. So that was pretty awesome, just because it's the classic Jason formula, but it's not actually the classic. It's not the normal Jason formula, but it's the classic Jason formula. And that ending where Jason's like quickly killing off all of these people that keep getting away from him, and then Tommy Jarvis tricks him into the ocean, into the lake, and puts a chain on his neck and leaves him at the bottom of the lake, and he almost drowns in a ring of fire. Like, it's just fucking awesome. I love part 6. So good. But Freddy vs. Jason is one of my favorite movies of all time. I can watch it at any time. It doesn't matter. And it's newer. It's new enough that it doesn't feel dated like the others. But not going with that. Part 6 is my favorite. Now we can talk about our least favorite. What's your least favorite? I guarantee we have the same fucking one.
When your big marketing ploy is to have Kane Hodder in full Jason makeup appear on Arsenio Hall's show to talk about Jason Takes Fucking Manhattan.
Fuck.
What is wrong with you people? And if you guys have not seen that YouTube clip, please look up Jason Voorhees interview Arsenio Hall. It is the stupidest 10 minutes worth of airtime I have ever seen on a talk show. More dumb than Jerry Springer.
Jason just kind of sits there silent. I'll actually leave that audio for the end. Like, I'll put that audio up at the end. It'll be on the video itself, and it'll also be on the podcast at the end. So you can skip ahead to that if you want to listen to the awkwardness that is Arsenio Hall with Jason on it. Jason Takes Manhattan has like 2 things we can take away from it that we like. Kelly Hu and the boat stuff. Yeah. The boat that was way too big. Why not have that? I don't understand. But the fact that the boat is a scary setting. You're in a boat with Jason. What are you gonna do? Jump off into the ocean where he's faster? Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Like, that's a scary setting. I wish they would have just been on a boat the whole time.
I mean,
like, make it to where it's a party boat, not make it a school thing, and make it to where these rich assholes are all on a boat, and Jason starts taking them out, and then the only thing they can do is get in the water, and the ones that get in the water all split up into like pairs or 3s or 1s, and they accidentally go to all the different sections of Crystal Lake, and he's like retreading all the movies up until 8, killing off these people that have gotten away from him off the boat. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. He went to fucking New York and like stepped in garbage.
Out of that whole movie, there are 2 death scenes, 2 kills that I remember, and I've watched it recently, and there are still just 2 kills. On board the boat when he kills the chick with her electric guitar,
Yeah.
That was a good kill. And when he sucker punches that the black dude on the roof of that building and knocks his head completely off. Those two kills are the only thing that was like, okay, well that's pretty good. But did I just not see Jason walk out of the ocean onto dry land from a boat?
Yeah. Yeah, you did. You saw that. You know what? That punch kill, though, it does help me in Friday the 13th, the video game. Because that's the quickest kill. It's the quickest animation. When you have a group of 3 little asshats trying to get away in a car, and you grab one of them, you want to do the punch kill because you want to get to the other 2 before they run away. So I'll give it that. You know what? You gave me a quick kill in the game. But as a movie, you blew. That's all of our 7 topics. We went over best setting, best kills, best actor, best special effects, best story, and best killer, and our best movie. Those were our 7 topics for the Friday the 13th podcast, but we're going to go over one last thing, one bonus round. I've been thinking, and I want it to be a Jason versus movie. Who would we like to see, even if it's not a Jason versus movie, just who would we like to see fight Jason next? And the reason I exclude movies, because my answer is it wouldn't be a movie, but Glenn, who would you like to see Jason fight? If we got to see him on screen one more time.
If you take aspects from Jason Goes to Hell and, go with that mythology, and here it is, we find out that he's in this whole possession type thingamajig, and behold, here's the Necronomicon. I think, honestly, Jason versus Ash would be a really fantastic movie. Now, there's that trailer going around on Facebook and whatever, Jason versus Freddy versus Ash versus Michael. Screw Michael Myers. He doesn't need to be in this. He's a real dude. He's not dead yet. Freddy makes kind of half-ass sense to be in this movie, but I would want to see Jason versus Ash. I mean, what is Ash going to do up against Jason Voorhees? Because he's like the ultimate Deadite. He is the Super Skrull of what you consider a Deadite. What is Ash going to do to try to take him out?
Yeah, so basically, the way I would see it, and I talked about this to you maybe a month or 2 ago about the new season because there was no updates. Now we know Ash vs. Evil Dead will be back in February, and I really enjoyed season 2. I think they added a lot of wrinkles to people's characters, and it was really neat. And the time thing, I don't think they understand how to write time travel in a way that can be understood linearly. So great, but I always thought, what if he had to, like, his Necronomicon unleashed all these different forces in every episode, or 2 episodes if you want to do the 2-parter, which I think would be best. So every 2 episodes was devoted to him putting down creatures that the Book of the Dead had brought back to life. And you could do Child's Play, and you could do Nightmare on Elm Street, and you could do Pinhead, and you could do fucking so many, like, just random things. Like, it could breathe life into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre world, and just all these different things, like, or these creature type people could have existed, and Deadites are now in their body, and he has to kind of kill them because they're on a super murder spree. One of them I thought that would be perfect was Jason. The Freddy one is great, and that works really well with Evil Dead, but the Jason one makes the most sense. Because we saw the Necronomicon in Jason Goes to Hell, because there's always that link there between him. Now, a Jason versus Freddy versus Ash movie was rumored, eventually became a comic book, but it was rumored to be the sequel to Freddy versus Jason, and I don't know what the fuck broke down, but I'm still kind of pissed over it. I wish it would have happened. I think if someone had done anything with that damn Evil Dead franchise since 1993 and between 2003, if anyone had done anything with that franchise, it could have been brought back. Or if Bruce Campbell had just been a working actor, that movie would have had chances. Like, let's not kid ourselves. The only reason Ash vs. Evil Dead is happening now is because A, that reboot worked really well in theaters, and B, he went on Burn Notice and revitalized his career.
Yeah.
Like, where was Burn Notice before Freddy vs. Jason that could have brought him back into people's minds and given people a reason to want to see him?
Yeah. I mean, after he did Army of Darkness, I mean, he went in and did The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
That shit don't count. Like, The Adventures of Briscoe County, you can't even buy that shit on DVD. Like, you have to pirate it. Like, it's just lost to time now. And then he, like, appeared on, like, Xena and Hercules a couple of times. It's like, he only appeared because of Sam Raimi. You know?
Yep.
Like, as far as people would have thought in the year 2003 or 2006 by the time the movie would have come out, if it really happened, it would have been Freddy versus Jason versus that guy that cameos in the Spider-Man trilogy. That's what it would have been. I hate it, but that's what it would have been. Ash versus Jason. I wish they could work that in together. I just want to fucking... At this point, I just want a Jason reference now. So that's great.
Yeah.
Damn it. Hate to end on a sour note because it's never going to happen, but damn it. At least, like, damn, like, I would just love in the video game, just in Friday the 13th, the video game, if you could have a different hero besides Tommy Jarvis come in, and it was Ash, and he had his shotgun and his chainsaw, and that would be phenomenal.
Yep.
Just phenomenal. Or just the metal hand. You can just say, fuck the chainsaw, I don't care. Anyway, that was our bonus round. Our whole podcast was about Friday the 13th, and good thing it's Friday the 13th. And hope you enjoyed listening to us. If it's podcast form for you, if you watched this whole video of me poorly playing the Friday the 13th video game, thank you. And we have links to charities in the description below. And if you are from the podcast form, you can go look us up on YouTube, Take This Studios, and you can find all of our gaming videos for charity. In October, it's all horror themed all month long, where we have the horror helpers, the 13 games of Halloween. We have some multiplayer mayhem going on. 13 games of Halloween is a challenge video. Super scary games. You have to last 13 minutes. We've had some quits. It's been pretty awesome. But on all of our videos, they are not monetized for us. YouTube forces monetization. So just because you watch a video on YouTube doesn't mean the ads actually go to the people. Those people don't actually monetize them sometimes. And ours actually have cards that pop up. You'll see on the little right hand corner, you'll see a little tab that pops out and it says help prevent suicide or help the Wayne Foundation or whatever. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a part where you can donate through Google, so you know it's safe. You can donate money, and that helps raise money for causes that we're doing these whole videos for. So thank you guys for what you've done watching those. Please donate through that if you would like, because it is going straight to the charity. You don't have to worry about. And these charities have been looked into. They are rated A charities. They are not people with a lot of overhead or a lot of administration costs, because I hate that. So thank you for that. You can find us on all social media at Take This Studios, not just the YouTube, but please check out the YouTube. You can find us individually, myself at Espacio1316.
I am at Joker ha 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 79.
Thank you for listening today. Please share with your friends. Again, please check out those videos and share those. Donate if you can. A share is just as good as a donation, because sharing is caring, and eventually those shares will reach people that do have the extra coin to donate. So thank you, and we will see you next time.
The term deranged sociopath gets thrown around a lot by the media, but it really applies to my next guest. Starting today, you can see him in Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Please welcome Jason. That's good. You know what I've noticed? I see all your movies, man. And you know what I've really noticed? You're angry. And I don't mean to laugh, excuse me, it's just the way I am. But You're angry. What happened, man? Where did it all begin? You know what I mean? Was it a woman? Did you get cut from the hockey team in high school? What happened? What's up? Okay, let me ask you this. I saw the new movie, Jason Takes Manhattan. You killed 16 people. I don't know why I'm laughing, man. You killed 16 people, and you were responsible for the death of 8 others. Total, that's less than what you usually kill in a movie. Are you getting soft? Are you losing a step? You're trembling, man. You brought a clip. Would you set it up for us? Set up the clip, like tell them, you know, how this fits into the movie and what they're about to see and all that kind of stuff. You set up the clip. Jason Takes Manhattan. This is clip. It's over. Working on the streets of New York, did you get a lot of people come up to you, ask for your autograph and stuff like that? Ever think about doing a musical? I'm running out of questions, man. I know what I wanted to ask you. You didn't kill anybody with that big knife you usually kill people with. Did you change because you were afraid of being typecasted as just a big knife killer? So what's next, man? Some more Jasons, part 9? I got some great titles I had put together. Jason and the 3 Babies, what you think of that? Jason's Big Top would be funny. Jason Rabbit. That would be great. Jason, when Jason met Sally, would that be funny? You don't do many comedies, do you? I'd like to thank you for coming by. It's a pleasure. Jason, ladies and gentlemen.